So, welcome to our aspiring session and meetup, how to become a great CTO. Today's topic is from founding engineer to a director, a journey at unicorn company. Before I start, I would like to remind the newcomers and our audience that this is a recurring meetup series designed for technical specialists who already achieved a professional standing that equipping them with ambitions to ascend to more senior roles. Why we are doing this? Because we would like to bring a visibility and spotlight the best tech talent pool in Ukraine. It's really important to show that Ukraine has a lot of talents. We can develop great products. We are not only outsourcing company, we're a country. We also can develop really interesting solutions for a global market. Also, we want to build a community of both current and aspiring CTOs. So you guys can share experience, get some advice, boost your strengths, and work on your weaknesses if you have any. Our meetup series has actually two formats. The first one is current format is online forward. We broadcast to YouTube every second Tuesday of the month, and it's held in English. The second format is offline format. We held it at UNIT.City Innovation Park in Kiev every last Tuesday of the month. My name is Iana Mykhailenko. I'm a director of engineering at Turnitin, a global tech company. And today I have a privilege of talking to aspiring leader, Vova Petrov, a founding engineer at People.ai, Ukrainian unicorn company. And I will bridge the dialogue between our distinguished guest and our audience. So guys, please be proactive, drop your questions in the YouTube chat. We will have 15 minutes at the very end of the interview, and we will ask the most interesting question. So take your chance, be proactive, and ask your questions. Boba, are you here with us? No,
Yep, I
so
am. Hi,
nice to
everyone.
meet you. Hey,
Thank you so
how are
much
you
for having me.
doing?
I'm
So
doing pretty
I'm
good.
so glad. Awesome. So I'm so glad that you were able to participate this session. So first of all, I didn't talk too much about you because I want you to share your own story. So what is your current role, and how did you start your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So my current role is Director of Engineering People.ai. Um, if in two words, my story splits in two parts, like 8 years before People.ai and 8 years in People.ai. So yeah, that's pretty much about me.
Okay. So that's really interesting. People.ai, as I said, unicorn company, and we talked with you before. It was really interesting conversation. I know that you joined pretty early to the company, but before that, let's talk about your early days. Why did you decide to be an engineer, and which company you worked for? What was the most interesting about the job before People.ai?
Sure, absolutely. Couple of things to say. Um, so I started in a kind of pretty regular school in Kiev. Nothing special there. I used to love mathematics at the very beginning, and I had the privilege to study in Taras Shevchenko University on cybernetic faculty. Um, and I studied with a lot of very smart people from all around of Ukraine. Right now, they work on the top companies, top IT companies all around the world. And I need to say that at that point of time, when I was in university, I looked into them and I said, like, no way I could become a great engineer because, like, those crazy great people around. But then the friend of mine came to me and asked, like, I have a small business and I need some sort of CRM. So what I did, I just wrote a CRM for maybe a couple of months, and we implemented that CRM in his business. And what I realized there that hey, there are people that use my tool that I built, and they enjoy it, and it helps them in their daily work, right? So there is something to enjoy in that. So that's kind of point of time when I decided that engineering might be my path. So as I mentioned, right, like my story in the engineering splits into two pieces. First is 8 years before People.ai and roughly 8 years in People.ai. So before People.ai, I met one guy, CTO in one of the product company, and we made a pretty good friendship there. So we ended up having the from 3 to 4 size team that literally for those 8 years were jumping from one company to another, from one idea to another, trying to build a business in Ukraine and also build a couple of startups. So we have a pretty long journey. We could talk about specifics, but one of the most important thing there is that for those 8 years, I've been building some product, right? On one way or another, I was related to product and building product companies. So yeah, that's in a couple of words my story.
Interesting. So, have you ever worked for outsourcing company or service
Uh,
company in
it,
Ukraine?
it was for 6 months, I believe, 6 months only.
Okay. Why 6 months only? Can you please share that?
Yeah, sure. So it was very beginning of my journey in IT. So I found the
Mhm.
first job and I worked on that. So I understand pretty much something about outsourcing, but honestly, I have no experience there. And right after that, I actually met this CTO guy that I mentioned. Uh, hey, Victor, if you hear me. So yeah, we met, and that's how journey begins with all the product.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. And have you so in this first 8 years, have you worked for any company that targeted global market or market outside of Ukraine?
There was only one. It actually the company name is Bus4. Maybe someone of you knows that. That the company that sells bus tickets. They operated in 5 countries at that time when I joined.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much my only experience there before People AI. Right now, company, as far as I remember, they are part of BlaBlaCar.
Okay, okay, interesting. All right, all right. So, um, tell me this exciting story. How did you join? Actually, people. I know that there is a lot of hustle in the story. So, how do you start?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So imagine the following thing that at the end of this like first 8 year period in my life, I quit from my previous job and I find a new one. And then in the middle, I have this 1 week vacation. I booked trip to Egypt and I plan to enjoy that. But then 1 week before actually the trip, I was scrolling Facebook and I saw the post from Oleg Roginsky, who is CEO of People AI, and he literally said there like, "Hey, I'm gonna change the world. I need like people with right and left hands." And I'm like, "All right, seems like it's about me." So I messaged him. We started talking, and he inspired me quite a bit with his directional kind of. He was really sure on what he gonna do, and I inspired quite a bit. So we chatted for a week, and then on Friday, right before my flight to Egypt, we had a call, and he said like, "All right, let's start doing something. Let's start building something." And I'm like, "All right, let's do it." I have 1 week of vacation, then I get back to Ukraine, then I have a couple of weeks to start the new company. And like so, in 3 weeks we could start talking. And he was like, "You don't understand. We need to start right now. Like tomorrow, I have a meeting with the first prospect, and I need to show him something." So literally, like it was like 6 hours before my flight to Egypt, and I literally sat down and wrote first line of code of People AI, and then I went to Egypt. I spent like entire vacation, entire 7 days sitting near the pool, and I did only two things there, actually three. So I slept, I worked, and eat. On the third day, my stomach said like, "Hey, no eat, like no food anymore." So I just slept and worked. That's pretty much it. Uh, so that's how company started. But then I get back to Ukraine on Monday, And I messaged all like, hey, like I'm gonna go to the new job. You will lose me for a couple of weeks. Like, what do we do? And he called me saying, hey, I already booked a tickets for United States for you. So you arrive to United States in a couple of days. So that's how I arrived to United States and the journey began. And then what we did in California, specifically near San Francisco, we rent 3-floor building, 3-floor house actually, and I literally slept there for and worked there for 4 months until we started People.ai, made a couple of iterations of the product, and then applied to Y Combinator.
Wow. So 3 floors building. How many people did you have in that building?
Sure, it was pretty fun time. So if you watch the way through a couple of ideas, there also were investors who've been coming and like asking, hey, what do you do? Like, show what do you have? So there were like a lot of movements there. We also had a couple of pretty great parties there. We also had PlayStation. We actually using PlayStation, we have those charts, like showing some metrics of our business at that point of time. It was pretty fun time. A lot of people. I met a lot of people and drink a little bit of wine there. Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty nice. I had an impression that there were only three of you in San Francisco at that point of time, a core People AI team. Is that correct, or you had much larger team at that point?
Yeah, that's correct. So I literally was the third person in the company at that point of time. But frankly enough, we grew pretty fast. So we find more engineers, we find people who help us with marketing. So the team grew pretty fast at that point of time.
Okay, so but you had a pretty big. It feels like you had a pretty big house, probably because your CEO planned to invite a lot of people, investor, mentors, advisors, potential customers to the building, so you can have a lot of meetings there. I by the way, I
That's true. So
posted. Go ahead.
yeah, that's true. So to be really honest with you, there were like 3 bedrooms there in that house, and then one of the guy who was from San Francisco, he literally slept in the wardrobe. So we had a wardrobe there. He didn't want to go to his apartment during the night and get back on the evenings, so he literally slept in the wardrobe. So uh, it was more like the garage experience, not a fancy house or something.
Okay, so it's for three of you there, but I believe that. Oh, I'm sorry. But I believe
Just take a
that
look.
uh,
Maybe that's someone from People.ai calling you and asking not to ask some questions or something.
probably. uh, so I want to just understand. You were one technical, hands-on guy in that building at that point. Who were the rest uh, of the team?
Sure. So when I arrived, there was Oleg, CEO, who had the idea, and we probably will talk about the idea a bit later. But then there was also data scientist who helped with the first vision of AI actually in People.ai. But then, literally in 1 week or 2 weeks, we got another pretty great backend engineer, and we had the third one coming in a couple of months. So at the end of this 3 months journey, 4 month journey, we had three pretty cool backend engineers, including me.
Okay, let's pause on San Francisco phase and come back actually to People AI as a company. So I believe that it's pretty known company in the Ukrainian community and worldwide community, but I would like you to tell a couple words about the company. What does People AI do? What the value for the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe before we talk about that, let me say a couple of words about B2B selling motions, right? For those who are not aware about how kind of B2B companies build their business, So the selling motions, and by selling motions, I mean like from the time when you start talking to your prospects or to your leads to the time when you actually get money to your bank. So it might take from 3 months to maybe 1.5 years for that period. So it's pretty long journey. One of the way to understand that is, imagine you build some sort of CRM and you want to sell that. So most likely you're going to talk to CEO as the guy who will make a decision, but then there will be all the head department leads who gonna vote whether approve or not, right? Like saying like marketing lead could say like our department not gonna use the CRM at all. Another example might be the security team, right? So like on the very late stage, you could figure out on the like at the end of this journey of 1 year journey, you could figure out that security team of the customer just simply doesn't approve your CRM. So from one point of view, we have this selling motion that is somewhat highly unpredictable with a lot of movers and shakers. But from another side, predicting how much you're going to earn as a company quarter per quarter is one of the key components for your planning. So that's actually going back to People.ai. That's actually a field where we operate. So what we do is we grab all the data that is available around the business and selling motions, and then based on the data, provide certain insights to the customer so they could predict their deal closing. That's a great question. So basically, if you run a company at the moment, or if you just started startup, one thing that you need to learn and understand that you have to have time and resources and money to do a couple of pilots. So the idea that you have in your mind is the basic for the business, but then the business by itself might be changed depending on what your customer needs. And actually, one of the main goal on the early stage company is to get customers as fast as possible. The reason for that, customers going to tell you what exactly you need to get at the end and what exactly is the product that you want to build. So having that in mind, People.ai pivoted or changed the business idea or like the product, the end product, 3 or 4 times. I believe 4 times. So all those 4 times happened during those 4 months that I mentioned. So the core idea was there, right? The core idea was like, all right, if we have all the data available, we could give certain product or could give certain insights to the people, to the salespeople. That was the basic idea, and it hasn't changed over the time. But what has changed is actually the product. So at the very beginning, we've been thinking about B2C. So one of the examples was we want to provide insights to the salespeople, how them to become a better person or like a better seller. Or we've been thinking to utilize the data for recruitment needs. So kind of connecting sales to the companies. But what happened in Y Combinator, literally people there asked Oleg to talk to 100 C-level people from sales. And after that, he realized that we actually need to build a product for companies, not for salespeople. And that's how we become B2B.
Interesting. Was it hard for you to get accepted into Y Combinator, Budge? Any hacks
It
or
was pretty
any
fun
tips
still.
for? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So the one tip that I could give you is to have Oleg as CEO. Not sure it's really valuable, but still. So let me tell you a story and then maybe give an advice. So back then when we were like 3 months old, Oleg came to us saying like, "Hey, we're gonna apply to Y Combinator." And I'm like, all right, that's a great idea. What is Y Combinator? He explained me in a couple of words, but then said, we need to have demo. So we need to show something for them. And at that point of time, we literally had only one button on the UI. We had crazy complicated backend, but we have only one button on UI. And I was like, what you are going to show, like button? No, I have a couple of ideas how to visualize data that we have. Here they are. So we're gonna record that tomorrow during the night, build front end to visualize the data in the way how Oleg imagined that. And that's how we recorded the demo. To be honest with you, but yeah, we applied to Y Combinator. So as you can imagine, I don't have like pretty great insights in the way how to apply. But what I know is that we have pretty cool guy from Ukraine startup community. His surname is Zaramba. He actually gives advice to people who wants to apply to Y Combinator. He went through that path. So I could share his contacts if needed, and I believe he will help you to understand what's the best way to apply.
Yeah, he's a pretty nice guy. I've been working close with him. I believe that he's a co-founder of Axdraft. It's a solution for legal. Yeah, so
Correct.
and we have actually a lot of such folks in Ukrainian community who already applied to YC, who went through the batch, and they're happy to share their experience. It's so cool. Therefore, we invest in the community because we can get something from community and we want to bring it back. Thank you for doing this, actually. So,
Sure.
little couple words about People.ai. We understood what does it do, customer segment. What about the current phase of the company?
You mean size or?
Yeah, probably size. What is the stage? Is it fast? Is it growing company right now? Stale company, or how would you
Sure.
describe that?
Sure, absolutely. So People.ai went through that venture type of business growing system that we had before this economic shift, right? So the main idea there is that you have investors that have what we call cheap money. Basically, it means that could give you money for relatively small size, like in compare of relatively small size of the company. So then one of the key concepts there is that you want to grow way faster than your competitors, and then you need to acquire roughly maybe like 30% of the business you focus to. Maybe you want to become maybe one of three largest company on the area that operates, and whoever is the first, those company wins. So that's how we've been operating for literally like 6 years. So specifically, we got 6 rounds of investments from the top investors in the field. So we grew up to from 2 to 400 people. And the biggest investments we had, so like the biggest investments is 100 millions, in total is 200 millions, and we've been evaluated as a unicorn, meaning that then the company costs are more than $1 billion.
Awesome. But when did you start? Was it 2018 or 16?
16.
16, okay. It was a time when I started actually my startup, but unfortunately I cannot share this successful story of unicorn evaluation. Right. So
Very few
and it's
company does, yeah.
for sure, and you are one of the, and you know how to hack that growth and at least how to join such companies. Okay, so we understood what People.ai is, the current stage, the beginning story. Let's come back to our San Francisco story. So right now, it's 3 of you. You run over 100 customer interviews with potential clients. The team is accepted to YC. What is your plan? What are you doing? Are you in San Francisco? Are you coming back to Ukraine? And what's the next steps for you personally?
For sure. So to understand a little bit of background of IT world and People.ai, so when you start a company, for the very first couple of months or until you get first customers, you are in that fast iteration mode. What it means that you want to build product fast, you want to iterate fast. Literally, there were a time when I just jump into production, like hack the database, like change the data there, maybe like deploy some script to make sure that the customer meeting we have in the future is successful. So that's that time. And in People.ai story, it's those like first 4 months. Then when you got first customers, there is certain shift that you need to make in your IT structure. So your focus is gonna be to start building enterprise-like of the company. So specifically, what People.ai did at that point of time, we built a pretty robust CI/CD process to make sure we deploy fast, like we deploy like dozen times per day with no interruptions. We decided to go to that no QA mode, meaning that you don't have specific team that is responsible for QA. That speeds up development as well. So you don't have those iterations when an engineer needs to build something and then someone needs to test, and then there is that back and forth process. Because of that, we invested pretty hardly in the monitoring system and alerting. We have like the PagerDuty rotations in place from the maybe like very first month of the company. And then what we also did, we applied to different security certifications that were not just important to get customers, but also it drives us to make our infra more secure. So those kind of changes were happening right after like those 4 months. And my role there was I was one of the tech leads in the company. So I get back to Ukraine after those 4 months, and I started building teams there. I started helping hiring. I was not the only kind of tech lead, and it was not the case that I managed to help like entire team in Ukraine. But I basically was the so-called like the oldest person in the room. So it means I've been doing two things. First, I was ashamed of all the technical decisions that I made before, and second, I kind of helped culture to grow a little bit. So specifically, maybe one small story. Specifically, when I get back to Ukraine, there were only two of us in the first couple of months. So we've been going through different co-working places in Kiev. So if you need advice on to compare co-workings in Kiev, I know everything. But then in the second or third month, I found pretty cool co-working right in the center of Kiev. So literally, you just get the subway to Maidan Nezalezhnosti station, go up, and literally that building is there. The co-working is not there anymore, but I was so excited about the place. There was one challenge with the place, though. There was no heating system. So literally on winter, when we had colds with San Francisco, we've been sitting with hats, and jackets. So that's how we had the conversation at that point of time. And then obviously when the company grew enough and the team grew enough, we ran proper office and a great office in Kiev, and started building an even more larger team there.
Are you talking about iHub? No?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, I'm pretty bad in
Okay.
names, but yeah, I believe it was iHub. Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty great location. Lots of startups, founders started there. We also had some time sitting in that iHub. But okay, I've got it. Okay, so you were one of tech lead, but what was exactly your area of responsibility at the beginning? Any like security, CI/CD processes? What was that?
Mostly backend engineering. So at that point of time, the things changes so fast, so it's even hard to say one thing that I was responsible for. Right? You shift teams pretty fast. You change priority pretty fast. One of the specific things that I did, I built the first version of the graph of the knowledge about all the people in the world. So it's crucial for our business to know specifics of who salespeople are talking to. So we need to know exactly like who is this guy, like what is his job title now and was in the past. So the thing that I did, I actually built the first version of that system at that point of time. So yeah, I think, and one thing that I need to admit again is that in startup world, things changes so fast. So like one of the key things that you need to learn is how to adapt, and you need to teach your team to do that, how to react fast on all the challenges that are coming.
Okay. So you were one of the, I believe, the first hands-on technical person in sounding title, probably with not too much of responsibility if you're a small startup of only 3, 4, up to 10 people. But you do not have this title. And we already had a conversation with you, and I know the reason. But could you please share with our audience why you didn't become a CTO and decided to stay technical person,
For
hands-on?
sure. So if you think about hiring, and by the way, for you as a leader, hiring is one of the most important thing that you need to learn how to do good. So when you're a leader and you're thinking to hire someone C-level, say in CTO, so what you need to do, you need to think at least 1 year upfront and understand what this person need to achieve in 1 year. So then when you do that, after what you need to do is find the person who already was there, right? Who already achieved what you need to achieve. So this person could walk you through that path, and this person already learned from all the mistakes that been made. So at that point of time, when this conversation regarding CTO appeared, I was not the guy, right? Uh, Back then, before joining People.ai, the biggest team that I used to lead was 10 people. And what we wanted to do at that point of time is to grow teams up to around 50 people in the engineering team. So you had to have a person who know how to do that, and we've been lucky enough to find that person, People AI, and I learned a ton from back from that person back
Have you ever regretted this decision, not becoming it,
then.
not stepping in and pushing forward?
Not not really. So like again, like look, right? I'm
Hmm.
human, right? Like if you ask me like uh have you ever dreamed to be like CTO? I haven't dreamed to be CEO. I'm kidding. But then like right, like we're humans, we are dreamers. We want to kind of to have like higher goals, right? We want to be cool and super cool inside. Like I'm the same, like I'm that guy. But going back to the time when I had to make that decision, I would do the same. And I'm really, really thankful that for that kind of decision, I was smart enough not to make it.
Okay. So, you joined a company that grew. You were lucky, but before joining People AI, you actually tried to boost a lot of startups and start a lot of businesses. So, if I ask you to give an advice to our audience, how to choose a company that probably can be a unicorn, you have this experience. What would you advise retrospectively?
That's a good one. So let's think together about that. So first thing that you want to do is actually find leaders that you trust, right? So when you choose new company, you want to be sure that leaders actually are able to make this company successful, right? Second thing that you want to look into is actually, how do I call it? Like, let's put it like business area. What I mean by that is when you look on the market, like basically the market volume, that's the better term, right? If you look, when you look into market that this business are aiming to, the market has to be large enough uh, for a company to become a successful, be large, right? Like imagine that we're gonna sell, I don't know, like books in a pretty small city. There are very few people who could buy that, right? So we need to make sure that there is actually a market, there is demand of what the company builds. The third thing is you want to look for a place where you could learn, right? You want to make sure that you work with people that's smarter than you, not just your manager, but also like people around, since those people will force you to grow as a leader and grow as a specialist. And at that point of time, when you're growing, it actually not not really matters whether the company is successful or not, as soon as you grow by yourself. And then what else is important is making sure that the company actually grow, right? The way how you could look into that is maybe look into the number of people like last year and this year. Maybe if it is available, you could look into ARR or the investments that the company got. You need to make sure that the company grows, because when company growing, that's when you get those new opportunities and new challenges. But that's when you get like the team growing. That's when you get some like new customers, when you get challenges that you haven't faced ever in your life. So that's kind of another important signal or direction. But before I end kind of on this topic, I want to remind all of you about the simple stats, right? So I believe the stats back to 2016 or something, they said like every startup that has started all around the world, only 2% of them get to exit. Everyone else dies. The larger companies, like the kind of the more stages they get in the funding, the stats better, but still, right? There are huge chance that if you join a company or start a company, it won't be successful. That's life. You have to understand that and make your plans based on that.
Okay. All right. It's depressing stuff, but motivating when such people as you can actually join a great company and be at the very beginning of that. So, uh, maybe three questions that I or you as engineer or as a tech leader needs to ask CEO of the company when I join the company, and if I would like to understand if it's this company has a really great potential to grow.
Let me think for a quick three questions to see or to understand whether you want to work with the guy or not. Give me 30 seconds. You know, like we have this like brain ring or something. We have a time, so I need to brainstorm a thing. All right, I think the way how I would phrase the answer is the following. So for the leader, what you want to look for is three things. So first is confidence in his words. So you have to see the person not just believes on what it does, but also uh, deeply understands the topic and also being able to convince other people of why it is important or why it is crucial. That's first thing, right? The second thing that you need to look into is ability of the guy to understand people. The reason why it is important is that only the person who really knows the personalities could find a great people into your company. And then the third thing that you probably want to look into is his background. Right, the story behind the people tells you a lot. if you're lucky enough, you could find CEO who already like have experience building couple of companies, and that's what tells you that the person knows what he does. So yeah, sorry, maybe not a questions, but mostly directions of what to look for.
Yeah, this works. This works. Not necessarily asking three questions, but thank you so much. Okay, so um, you're back in Ukraine, building a team, hiring people, growing them actually the company. Could you describe what was your day look like then when you returned back from San Francisco, and what's the difference today?
Sure, absolutely. So again, maybe let's get back to those stages of the company for a bit, and that it will be easier for audience to understand the difference, right? So we ended up saying that like second stage of the company when we got first customers and we need to react fast. So how the engineering structure looked like back then in People.ai, we had mostly tech leads and teams in place, and those teams have been reporting to our CTO directly. So those teams, basically the things that those teams faced at that time is shifting priorities here and there. So you could wake up with kind of one large task in your mind, but then in the middle of the day you realize another one, since you have like new customer coming and you need to ship certain feature, but then somewhere at the end of the day you might realize that your infra is not scalable enough, so you need to jump into infrastructure and scale it. So you have to actually love that to survive or to grow, right? The day back then, maybe for a couple of years, in People.ai specifically, but I bet like all the companies go through that. Uh, from the person who are not there might look like a hell, right? You just wake up, you have competing priorities. You by yourself could write like dozen of the things that you want to change either in product or in infra. It's pretty critical to you, and you're literally ashamed that those exist. You want to do everything, but you just don't have time. You also have teams in place that you need to help. You also need to think about people in the teams, and you also need to communicate certain decisions back to the business. So all crazy stuff happening at that time. So that's basically how my day looked like, right? You just wake up in the morning, you just do like, and at the end of the day, like, and that's pretty much it. In the morning, they just literally like go through you with the speed of light. Then when your company mature, you have mature company enough, you could easily touch like certain product features or certain engineering work to money, and you could measure that in that way. So yeah, we have that like robust process in place. Then we have quarterly delivery when you have to work with the team. You have to focus on certain well-defined things. Of course, like all the randomness happens, but there's not so often, right? You have certain escalations, but those are even more predictable in certain extent, right? You know the list of customers that are coming, you know all the requests, you could manage priorities and everything. So that's like, if talking about now, that's how my day life looks like, right? Like the biggest important thing for me is to make sure the team actually does what it promised in time. So that's my top priority day to day. But also, we are not so large, right? Like we are not like crazy large company. So then, I personally and every other manager or director of engineering in the company, they might have certain like personal tasks or something. So I have my the challenge that I choose to. Specifically for those who are curious, I'm working on making the data faster in the system. So, like specifically, right now we're talking to in one of the theory that we have idea we have even like redo entire infra of People.ai. So that's the project that I drive end to end at the moment, but not by myself, right? Like I have very smart people around, so I could just raise questions and wait until the team helps to find answer.
Okay. So, you shared with me a story about hiring actually a CTO. And I believe that the first CTO that you hired, I'm not sure if it's the same one, but the person was located in United States, but not Ukraine. So engineering team was mainly in Ukraine at that point of time, but CTO in United States. So is it the same today, and why?
Yeah, that's a good one. So the thing is the following. The entire business of People.ai at that point of time was mainly focused in the United States. So
Mhm.
as a CTO of the company or like CEO of the company, what you want to prioritize for at that point of time is speed. That's what we talked about, right? Like how fast certain problems gonna solve. So what we did for that, we made sure that tech leads or pretty senior people of every team allocated in United States in the same time zone. It was pretty crucial at that point of time. So when like any escalation exists or like any customers got certain questions, right, to have person on that time zone so they could dedicatedly like jump into the call, explain things, or like brainstorm on the solution, or even like explain what's going on. It is not the case at the moment in terms of that. Uh, as I mentioned, we have more predictable processes, so we could have more distributed teams. So certain teams at the moment exist only in Europe, so there is no one in United States who even understands what's going on inside. But answering your question, the CTO is still in the United States. On that level, it's still kind of pretty important for C-level guys to jump in into the call or like even like go closer with each other and think through different challenges. And like as we see, the challenges in the recent days comes like pretty often.
Oh
So
yeah.
if, yeah, even in the company with size like People AI, when you C-level guy, um, you need to react fast, right? You need to make a decision fast, and you need to shift the business towards the path that you think is proper.
Does it having CTO in United States far away from engineering team, Ukrainian engineering team, does it introduce any challenges to the team or to you personally?
I believe this is a question that no one can find an answer at the moment, right? Like this is mostly comes into that conversation, like, hey, what's the best approach? Whether it's like sit all together in the same office, right, or this kind of approach of having people around the world like working from whatever place you want and in whatever time that they want. So there is no proper answer. If you ask this famous guy Elon Musk, right, he would say like, no, we just need to sit all together in one room, like, and no one exits the room until the solution is found. If you ask, I think like most of the CEO of the companies, like Ukrainian companies, they would say like, you can work whatever you want, right? Like you could sit whatever you want. Like just the most important thing is to do your work. Um, as usual, right? Like the answer to those questions is that reality or like the best way to approach that is somewhere in the middle, right? There is certain amount of tasks or challenges that requires you to be pretty close to each other, but then there's certain things like certain routine that you could do like in whatever place you want. Uh, maybe like the larger companies like it, and the more robust processes are, you could be like more flexible in those. So right now at this kind of moment, we already adapted all the processes in place, so we could chat like at whatever time. I could be sending messages to my CTO like at the evening or like morning. The same he does. So it's not literally a challenge. However, I need to admit that it was before even from like in People.ai history and for me personally. So you have to have this kind of mind shift of the fact that you don't have how they call it, work-life balance, right? So you don't have like literally the work-life balance, but you literally ingest the work in the life and
Hmm.
in the other direction. So you could work and do stuff around basically at the same time.
Yeah, I totally get that because my leadership is also in United States. I report directly to CTO, so sometimes you need to plug in your life into work. Actually, that's true. That's very true.
So true.
You mentioned that People AI is not super big company. You mentioned 200 or 300 people right now, but what is the size of engineer work in People AI right now?
Less than 100 people.
Okay. And when did you introduce the first management layer? At which number?
Um, Good. I wish I recall it, but maybe like 30% less or something. So yeah, like going back to that decision. So I started telling that story, but I didn't end. So we had this tech lead type of structure. So you have tech lead that is responsible for making technical decisions for team management. Um, that actually was our like thoughtful decision to structure team like that. One caveat that you need to have in mind while making that decision is that you need to hire pretty smart and experienced people, right? Tech lead role, arguably, but we call it no, wrong terminology. So we call it team lead, not tech lead. So like we call it back then team lead. So arguably, team lead engineering position is one of the hardest one in engineering because you need to have all the variety of knowledge in place to be successful there, like basically as a tech lead and as a manager. So then when the company grew, we decided to make that shift, right? So right now we have dedicated tech leads of the teams that are literally focused on delivery and technologies, and we have managers in place that are focused mostly on people. Then the reality is also not as black and white, right? So it really depends on the tech lead and the manager. So sometimes they shift their responsibilities somewhere. Sometimes it's not so
Mhm.
black and white. So the most important thing there is that you have to have that synergy between tech lead and manager for the team to be successful.
Okay. So we are right now almost at the time for our interview, but I wanted to ask you a couple questions at the very end. So, what was the biggest challenge for you in your journey with People AI, and how did you overcome that?
I think the biggest if you think about 8 years of a journey, you could imagine like that you have variety of challenges on each stage or like on each of the moment. I think the hardest thing was actually to overcome all of those. And the thing that helped me personally is understanding the bigger picture and the my personal goals around it. Like I think it's mostly advice to other people is that every time when you face certain challenge, you need to answer a question like, "Hey, why am I here? What am I doing here, and what I get from it?" Right? In my specific case, in People AI, it was pretty simple for the reason that like People AI is my company, right? I built it from the very first day. yeah, I'm not a founder of the company. I could be fired or something, but still, I truly believe this is my company. So I really want to see the success of of People.ai, and I want to be part of that and help company on that path.
Okay, still treat it as your company. Okay, that's interesting. I believe that you invested a lot of energy and life into that, and for sure, I can understand that feeling for sure. Uh, by the way, my team notified me that we are experiencing some problem with YouTube chats. And guys, if you would like to ask questions, please post it into Telegram. That DEV Challenge team posted into the chat. We have already a couple of questions. I will ask them pretty soon. But if you'd like to ask your question, please follow Telegram. I'm really sorry for inconveniences. Um, and actually, right now you're in a pretty good spot. But which advice would you give to yourself? Which skills to develop before you join People AI?
Sure, I think the way how I would phrase the answer, right, is that what do you need to know when starting a journey with startup like People.ai, or maybe like starting a company or just starting a startup? So one thing that I want to tell to those people, good luck. The thing is, the journey won't be easier for sure. You will experience like a lot of complexities and a lot of obstacles. So there is absolutely no way to be prepared for that. For sure, when you start the second company, it's easier, right? But when you do it first time and when you start the journey in startup for the first time, there is no way you could prep. The only thing you could do is to jump into those challenges open-minded. And one another thing that you need to keep in mind, it takes time. So you need to make sure like all other aspects of your life besides the work is well covered, because you won't be there for certain amount of time, right? You will have to dedicate time to startups. So make sure all other things are covered.
Okay, thank you so much for a nice conversation. I've got a lot of insights from you. I'm really happy to celebrate your success, and hopefully, the People I will grow even more, and we will hear and use about the new evaluation of the company. Maybe a couple billions of dollars, probably 10. We'll see how is it going. Uh, it's a time for our Q&A session. We have a couple of the questions right now. So the first one is, could you please describe the People AI product engineering culture, if it has changed from the beginning to the present?
Oh, that's a good one. Actually, the company culture is something that really helps you grow your business. So you need to be extremely careful when thinking about the culture, but even more, you want to be precise when describing the culture. So I believe it becomes a trend, a good trend, all over the world for the software companies specifically, that they literally list all the cultural aspects. And you, when join a company or when you operate, you could open it and read it through. I found it like just super useful, and even like not useful, but like crucial for the company growth. Uh, Take a look. If I recall correctly, I believe on Story of Airbnb, they, if I recall correctly, they spent month and month to find the fourth person in the team. And mostly the reason for that was culture, right? That they've been looking not just for the hard skills, for the person who could help from the technical perspective, but then you like, hey, this is the fourth guy or fourth person or fourth girl in the room. I need to find the right one. So that's pretty much crucial. In People.ai, we pretty much did the same. We sit down and listed out all the things that we care about. And we literally, during the onboarding, we will be presenting those things to the people and making sure during the hiring process that we align with with those things. Whether culture has changed during the company growth, there is, I think, the only test you could do that. So the culture is not something that kind of managers or C-level people talk about, right? Culture is what every person does when no one or no manager look around. So that's what culture means. From my perspective, the culture of people are still there.
You mentioned that you had a session, brainstorming session about trying to identify what's the culture and describe that. Did it happen at the very beginning, or you had it somewhere in the middle of the journey?
It was somewhere between first and second year of the company. So when we did that, when the company started growing, we realized that we need to do that process. Now, um, you probably, as a founder, want what to do that early, like sooner than later. Uh,
Mhm.
and also, a lot of stuff about culture comes from founders by themselves, right? That's pretty much true that the company is some kind of the mirror of the founder.
Mhm.
So if you are founders, just make sure the culture, the things that you put into the culture, actually that something resonate from inside of you.
Okay, let me rephrase a question a little bit. What kind of people you're looking for when you're hiring?
That has changed like a lot from the company
Okay.
journey. I think I cannot answer a question better than just referring you to the book like Who. This is the book. This is kind of the best book for hiring I believe like in all around the world, like people in United States just basically referring to the book like all the time. So the thing is, um, as I mentioned, right, like hiring is your not a goal, but your kind of the biggest responsibility of you as a leader in the company. Finding a right people is the most important thing that you can think about, since those people will help you building product, building culture, hiring other people. So this is actually your kind of problem number one. Uh, the important thing about hiring is that hiring changes from the time in terms of the person who are looking for changes over the time. And actually,
Hmm.
in this book, it describes pretty good. So, what you want to do, you want to clearly understand what are the outcomes of the person during first year or of working in your company, and what will be his responsibilities, but also what background the person should have. And what you want to make sure after you listed this clearly, what you want to make sure is actually making sure your hiring process is built in that way that you could check literally all the points there. That document called mock, by the way, for those people who are aware about the process. So I actually find this this process pretty insightful, and it helped me quite a lot in my hiring journey. So answering your question at the moment, we are looking into great engineers that will help us making People.ai a better place that it is at the moment.
Okay.
From the IT perspective specifically, yeah, we're not looking into engineers only, sorry.
Right. So I have a little bit intriguing question for you. How many females do you have in your engineering org? Do you have any in your team?
We do. Uh,
Okay.
it's I think if you look into this Gini stats, right? I think
Mhm.
People.ai is somewhere there, as in the number of females in the IT world.
Pretty good. Okay, that's pretty interesting because I know that we are facing a lot of challenges with hiring and finding female as individual contributors. I'm glad that you have this diversity in your team. Okay, so the next question is: do you want to be a CTO of the company one day, maybe for another company?
Um, so when I think about my journey, right, it's pretty simple. There are two things that will challenge me in the future, right? Like one is either becoming CTO or maybe founder of the company, or trying myself in even larger teams as a manager, right? So like those two directions is will be challenging for me. So I will choose one of those two.
What about CEO role? Do you want to at some point try yourself into CEO role?
I don't have plans like that at the moment. The CEO kind of role doesn't, how do I say, like, it's not challenging by itself for me, right? However, if I have an idea that I want to present to the world, why not?
Okay, okay. So the next question from audience: do you find any difference between people's mindset in Ukraine compared to US when they work on a startup or they create a startup?
That's a good one. So actually, back then in 2016, it was one of the toughest question in hiring for people AI. And for a reason, right? Like in Ukraine, as you mentioned, we have pretty extended outsourcing culture in terms of we have a lot of outsourcing companies, and that's super cool from my perspective. It helps driving economy of Ukraine, right? It helps people uh, to learn and to earn. So that's super amazing. At the same time, the um, kind of the type of work you do in outsourcing and product companies is quite a bit of different. So that's why in Ukraine specifically, it was slightly harder to find people with product experience than comparing to United States. Because United States, you have like product companies everywhere, like everyone starts the startup, and actually that's true. So when you are in the train in San Francisco, right, you just going somewhere, you look around, and like for sure you will see at least like dozen CEOs or CTOs, right? And they start up. Sometimes they even pitching it to you, right? Like just come to you saying, "I have an idea." Just literally, the guy came to me and said, "I have an idea." I was like, "All right," and I'm eating my sandwich, right? Let's talk. It's just amazing stuff. Uh, so at the moment, I believe there is certain shift, right? Like from that perspective, we have more and more product companies in Ukraine. We have more and more successful product companies in Ukraine. So I'm pretty glad, even though, as I mentioned, like outsource is great, but then I'm pretty glad that there are product companies inside Ukraine because it creates not just workplaces, but also like intellectual property lives inside Ukraine. That's super awesome. And speaking not about the hiring aspect, right, but maybe a little bit wider. One thing that makes Silicon Valley a great place is actually the fact that companies there are really open for innovations. So whenever
Mhm.
you build business there, you it's relatively easier to find a company that wants to talk to you, right? Even though you don't have like perfect product, uh, you could inspire them by the idea. Yeah, for sure, you have to have product, right? Not just idea. But like even if it's not perfect, you could find companies that are willing to work with you and like guide you to build a great product uh, in a benefit for them having some innovation in place and being like the first on the line. Ukraine are not there at the moment. I bet we're gonna be there pretty soon, right? But we are not there at the moment, so that's why starting companies in Ukraine more challenging comparing to those in San Francisco.
Right. So, how did you stimulate innovation and technical development in the company? How have you maintained your technical competitiveness? Sorry, competitiveness.
That's a good one. Let me just change my AirPods.
And we can hear you, if any. Oh, we cannot. No, any sound. So probably we need to have these AirPods back. Nothing. Probably you need to rejoin. I have doubts. Nope.
Yep, better.
Oh,
Nice.
yes, yes.
Sorry,
Sorry, guys, for interruptions.
yes, my AirPod died. So yeah, innovations. It's an amazing topic by itself. Let me think how I want to cover that. I think you want to make sure that during the life of your company, you balance innovations in the product. And for sure, whenever your journey kind of goes to the company maturity, you want to make sure innovations are there. So I believe a couple of things, like one example, and maybe it answers the question even better. Like if you as a leader of the company don't leverage OpenAI just yet, you have to start today, right? Like literally that shifts the mind of the markets at the moment. It changes the game at the moment. So you have to understand uh, how to react as a leader and what challenges you have in the company because of that, and how you could leverage that for benefits for your clients and for your product. One specific example, what we do in People AI, we have a hackathons. We do it regularly, maybe once a quarter, to drive innovations. And literally, the last hackathon was related to OpenAI. So, like all the engineers was able to play with that to build the prototype of product. And right now, like basically all the engineers in People AI are to a certain extent professionals in OpenAI field, so they could at least quickly evaluate what is possible, what is not, and whether OpenAI is a good choice for certain challenges or not.
Okay, so I still have the very last question. Probably we can have it pretty quickly because you have problems with AirPods. How have you managed to maintain a technical focus while managing a team?
Uh, I believe the person who asked meant like this team lead type of environment back then in People AI. Um,
Mhm.
I believe one thing that helps quite a bit is remembering that you're a human at the end, right? Like, and people who work with you are also humans, and all those humans have one same goal, right? Is making companies successful. Uh, and even if you have the tough time solving certain challenges, uh, recalling that, understanding that, and treating each other as a humans helps pretty much a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you today. I'm really inspired by your story. We founded the startup at the pretty same time. You succeed. I didn't succeed at that point. feels like the statistics is working for sure. Only 2% or 2 companies out of 10 can reach a point when you evaluate it as unicorn company. Congrats on that. Hope that you will growing much more, and hopefully this will have again a conversation about some different aspects of your interesting story. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So, guys, I hope that you enjoyed the session with Vova today. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll come back in September. As a reminder, September 12th is our online meetup in the months. And September 26th is offline meetup in Kiev, UNIT.City Innovation Park. We will return back with new interesting topics, formats, guests. Please follow announcement on DEV Challenge page and UNIT.City. I'm super happy to be your host. If you have any proposals, please reach out to DEV Challenge team. I will try to improve and make our topics more interesting for you. And let's have some fun. Let's enjoy the summer. Please stay safe and see you pretty soon. Bye, guys.